All right, Ryan, I think you have an update for us on your fantastic reporting in Pakistan about the Imran Khan situation continuing to unfold over there. Tell us more.
Three different interesting updates here. One, we'll talk about the State Department response. We're going to talk about the response in Pakistan. But more immediately, we have breaking news just out of Pakistan right now. The Pakistani government has charged Imran Khan, the former prime minister, with losing a top secret Pakistani cable. He had previously said that he had lost this cable that proved a connection between United States pressure and his ouster. They've now filed charges against him, with the strong implication being that Imran Khan was our source. He lost the document. Now we have it. Now the problem with that logic is manyfold, and we can go through it here. One, my colleague Murtaza Hussain nor myself traveled to Pakistan. We did not go to Pakistan, so we did not get a physical copy. We obviously got a digital copy. So the question of whether or not he lost it is absurd. Inconsistent, makes no sense. So we also were very clear in the story that our source was inside the Pakistani military. The source was not Imran Khan. It was not anybody in his circle. It was not any civilian functionary. We were very clear about that. And the fact that he lost the document doesn't have any connection to whether or not somebody else could digitally leak a copy. What's interesting, though, is that there was a kind of a three-step move that the State Department and also the kind of Pakistani elite were doing about this cable. So first they would say it's inauthentic. This is, how do we even know that this is real? Then they would say this must have come from Imran Khan and it's high treason. And then they would say this is a nothing burger. And if you think about it, all three of those things can't be true together. Two of the three can't be together. One of the three can't be true together. It's either it either is authentic, and it is either a treasonous act or it's a nothing burger. It can't be all of those three different things. Finally, it seems like they're moving away from questioning the authenticity of it. And we could put up this first element here. The outgoing Pakistani Prime Minister, Shehbaz Sharif, who has had access to the document, so would know, what it says, said this in an interview with The Guardian. He said, Khan said he had the cipher, but he had lost it. Now it has been published on a website. And so that is confirmation that the document is authentic. Now, within about an hour or two after our show posted last week, breaking the news of this cable, and it simultaneously published at The Intercept, there was a State Department briefing. I want to play a couple of clips from that briefing to show kind of how they responded. And people asked, why wasn't it in the show? Why did it come out just a little bit after? Because we were giving the State Department time to respond. What Matt Miller says from the podium here is very similar to what he said in the written statement that we included in the article, but it's interesting to watch him say it. So here's the State Department getting pressed on that cable last week.
The cipher cable, supposedly, that's been reported. I know you've had some on-record comments on this, but I wanted to ask you about the veracity of the comments. It's obviously a Pakistani document. Does the United States generally think that what was reported there? What was that?
So a few things. One, yes, it's a report reported to be a Pakistani document. I can't speak to whether it is an actual Pakistani document or not. Just simply don't know. With respect to the comments that were reported, I'm not going to speak to private diplomatic exchanges, other than to say that even if those comments were accurate as reported, they in no way show the United States taking a position on who the leader of Pakistan ought to be.
If you remember the comments that the State Department made privately to the Pakistani ambassador, they said, if the no confidence vote against Imran Khan succeeds, all will be forgiven. And the all will be forgiven was the way that the United States was upset that he had visited Russia on the day of the invasion, that he had taken what they called a, quote, aggressively neutral stance on the Russia-Ukraine war. So somehow the State Department is insisting here that by saying that if you take a particular action, which is throw the prime minister out through a no confidence vote, all will be forgiven, that is somehow not stating a preference about what will happen. I suppose you could argue that, hey, they're just stating facts here, like the same way that, let's say, an armed robber might approach somebody and say, if you don't give me your wallet, I will pull the trigger. Now, I don't have a preference over whether or not one thing or the other happens, but I'm just telling you, what the situation is. And then if he turns over his wallet, you say, well, look, that was an independent decision that person made to hand his wallet over. The press corps did not completely accept that answer, pushed back a little bit. Here's the next moment from that interview.
We expressed concern privately to the government of Pakistan, as we expressed concern publicly about the visit of then Prime Minister Khan to Moscow on the very day of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. We made that concern quite clear. But as the former Pakistani ambassador to the United States himself has stated, the allegations that the United States has interfered in internal decisions about the leadership of Pakistan are false. As we've stated, they're false. They've always been false, and they remain false.
Okay, so now Miller here is making a very specific claim, and he made the claim to us in a comment also, but we did not include it because we thought it was too much of a false claim to just allow it to be said publicly. But since he's saying it from the podium, let's address it here. He's saying that the ambassador himself has said that there was actually no interference. In fact, in the document, in his own assessment, he says that Don spoke out of turn here and that the Pakistan ought to complain officially to the United States about the behavior. What I think is going on, and I asked for a clarification from the State Department on this a week ago, and I re-upped that request today, I think they have the wrong Khan here. So we put up this next element. A man named Azam Khan, who was the principal secretary to Imran Khan, was arrested and held for 30 days in detention by the Pakistani government. After that 30 days of detention, he put out a statement saying that Khan, really trumped up the allegations that were in this cable and that actually they don't show that there's any U.S. conspiracy. That is consistent with what Miller is saying. He's the principal secretary. That is a different official. Asad Majid Khan was the ambassador, not Azam Khan. So I have asked the State Department, did you confuse your Khans here? I understand we're now talking three different Khans, but if you're going to make a claim that definitive that the ambassador has said that there was no interference, you got to make sure that you have the right Khan here. I'll report back if I hear any of this, but there's no public record that we can find of Asad Khan going back on his initial assessment that is included in the cable that we published. And then you have a follow-up from the AP reporter who's in the gallery here saying, look, okay, you're saying that you're not expressing any preference, but you can imagine why people receiving that message might think that you are. So let's roll the full rest of this clip.
If you take all of the comments in context that were reported in that purported cable, I think what they show is the United States government expressing concern about the policy choices that the prime minister was taking. It is not in any way the United States government expressing a preference on who the leadership of Pakistan ought to be.
Well, just you can go. I think what I'm hearing is that essentially the substance of this report and the purported Pakistani cable back to Islamabad is accurate, but you're saying that it is not the U.S. saying that then Prime Minister Khan should leave office. Is that correct?
Close-ish. I cannot speak to the veracity. Close-ish. Then I'll explain what I mean.
I'll explain what I mean by
close-ish.
That's a diplomatic term.
Exactly. I'll explain what I mean by that, which is I cannot speak to the veracity of this document.
Okay.
What I can let me just finish. What I can say, let's even if those comments were all 100% accurate as reported, which I do not know them to be, they do not in any way show a representative of the State Department taking a position on who the leadership. They're commenting on.
You can understand, though, perhaps you can understand why other countries might think when the U.S. weighs in, even in a way like this, that it is taking a position on it. So, I mean, I can think name like 5 or 10 leaders who the United States has sought to oust including some that it has been successful in Afghanistan, although not only after military invasions. So, it's not an unprecedented thing for a country to think that the U.S. is trying to pressure it into, or trying to make its views known about who it thinks should be the leader of a country, right?
I will say that I can understand how those comments, number one, could be taken out of context, and number two, how people might desire for them to be taken out of context and might try to use them to advance an agenda that is not represented by the comments of themselves.
And do you think that's what's happening here?
I think a number of people have taken them out of context and used them for political purposes. I won't speak to intentions, but I think that's what's happened.
And just so viewers understand the comments that he's talking about, specifically, Donald Lu, the State Department official, said to the Pakistan ambassador, quote, "I think if the no confidence vote against the prime minister succeeds, all will be forgiven in Washington because the Russia visit is being looked at as a decision by the prime minister. Otherwise, I think it will be tough going ahead." So, Emily, you and I were talking last week before we had gotten the State Department response, and which is why we hadn't posted the video yet. And we were kind of guessing, like, how is the State Department going to handle this? Because they clearly are now caught doing the thing that they
Hey, if you liked that video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Breaking Points.
If you want to see the rest of Counterpoints, go to breakingpoints.com to become a premium member and get the full uncut show every morning in your inbox and on Spotify.
Help us build independent news and get the full show every morning at breakingpoints.com.